Hello and welcome to another episode of Educational. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we are the podcast that is chronicling our journey through our aging process. That's not Terry's, of course. She's timeless and she never ages, but we're looking at my aging process. Of course, then we also have parents that we work with that, are getting to the age where they need a little bit more involvement. So what we try to do is bring a lot of different perspectives, a lot of guests to the show to talk about different aspects of aging and wellness. So today is no different. And Terry, I'm going to let you introduce Lois.
Lois Hollis shifts our opinion on one of the most forbidden subjects, shame and guilt. Depression, anxiety, 30 years of migraine headaches and pain were Lois's way of life until she learned about the dangers of shame guilt. Her passion is to show the way to love ourselves and others by alleviating the suffering of shame guilt. She shares her 15 years experience as a ShameGuilt educator, counselor, filmmaker to give an effective, lasting way towards health, wellness, and spiritual maturity. Lois comes with a lifelong background in health. She began as a nurse's aide at 12 and continues today at 77. Lois is a trailblazer. She started by developing one of the first kidney hemodialysis centers in the United States. Today, Lois brings shame and guilt together as a new field of study. She is the author of 3 books and a video on Soul Speaks, an original process that brings peace to our inner personalities. Her newest book, Now is the Time, contains her light language readings direct from her soul that expand our spiritual development. Her new film, I'm Good, illustrates shame, guilt, trickery. Lois, welcome to the show. We're very glad to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a long bio.
That was a lot. Did I say that? The hemodialysis, did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. So tell us a little bit about your history and how it's brought you to where you are today. And I'm so excited to hear about the shame guilt.
Well, I'll be brief because I'm 77. I could talk for a long time. Anyway, I had an abusive childhood, which led to many emotional problems later on in midlife, as that is normal at this point. We all know that what we have and what we lived follows us until we have a healing on it. It was interesting because I was able to overcome a lot of the headaches and other problems I had because I developed a kidney unit. I was always trailblazer. I was able to raise my 3 children, etc. And I was always very lively. But eventually that took its toll. And I, somewhere in the 50s, my 50, I start doing some therapy, like, talking to therapists and things of that sort. So I felt better because I didn't want to commit suicide anymore. That was a step up. And but I didn't feel, right. I didn't feel good enough. I was living, but not thriving.
Right.
And at that time, I joined some women's groups, etc. And someone said, Lois, what do you do about shame? And I went, that's an interesting word. And so I went to the library and did a lot of research. We didn't have internet then. And the main person,
I remember.
I remember, I'm telling my age, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I saw John Bratchell's work. He was like a forerunner of shame. And he said it's a sickness of the soul. And I went, that kind of makes sense. And then I pondered that a lot. I'm kind of like a detective mind. I have to kind of figure out something. I just have to figure it out. It will bug me till I find out why it happened, how it happened, what do you do about it?
Right.
I don't consider it a curse. I consider it it's a part of my personality. So I was investigating it, and at that time I was seeing some clients because of my Soul Speaks interpersonality work. I was helping people talk to their depression, talk to anxiety, and they were all healing. But then I started adding the shame work to it. And all of a sudden I realized that there's nothing else in us but shame, guilt, that I didn't have to go to therapy for depression. Nobody has to go for therapy for depression or anxiety or anger, because it's all just shame, guilt. It was like the most exciting time of my life, because I was like happy that I had a way out. Now I have to preface this back with, in childhood at some time, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10, in that realm, I had a near-death experience, which I didn't remember till my 50s. I just assumed that I was always talking to another dimension. It was just like, you know, how kids talk to their dog or their animal or their bear. I would always just
Right.
talk to God, but I did not know that I was, but I didn't realize the implications of it. And that's why I was able to do a lot at first in my life, because I had an extra edge. And so I brought that to the shame guilt work. I was just like given information that wasn't in the library. So because people say, where did you go to school for this? Well, I didn't. It was given to me. And when I would talk with people and tell them what I know, they almost had an instant healing, because it was the truth. And that's why, since Adam and Eve, we've been so laden down with shame and guilt, because we were given the wrong information. So when I give people the right information, they go, oh my goodness, I can see that. And so this is my passion, and I appreciate your opportunity to share this with your audience. And if it's okay, I can tell you what that new information is.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the story.
Okay.
We all know about the love energy. It feels good. We're happy. We're joyful. We feel good about ourselves. We feel very good. There's like nothing we can't do, and we enjoy doing good things. But we also have a negative energy. And that negative energy is called shame guilt. It's an energy. And the reason I put the shame guilt words together is because they belong together. When we put shame here, shame is bad and guilt is good, it confuses our mind, and we go like, how do I fix that? Well, you can't, because you're fighting something you're separating. If you make it a whole, you're able to conquer it.
Okay.
So shame is in the unconscious mind and guilt's in the conscious mind, but it's the same energy. Now, why is that so? Well, in the cultural world, or in the medical world, this is how they do things. If you have a bacteria in your brain, they call it meningitis. Okay. If you have the same bacteria in your lungs, they call it pneumonia. Okay. If you have the same one in your stomach, they call it gastritis. If it's in your liver, they call it hepatitis. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? So it kind of skews you like it's something different, but it's not. It's just the language that they use. Okay, and forgive me for being very simple, but essentially I need to get the point across that just because it has a different name doesn't mean it's different.
Okay, sure. That makes sense.
So shame, guilt, I put the words together because I don't know another word to use. Uh, so just putting them together makes you realize that they're both not good. Because, you know, in the culture, they say, oh, we need more guilt. We need more guilt in the world, so people become moral. And I'm going, you won't be moral if you feel guilty, because you're acting from the wrong presence of your heart and your soul. I mean, I came on this podcast, I wouldn't feel guilty if I didn't. I
Right.
just do it because it's the right thing to do. So I'm asking humanity, can we just up it a little bit and act from a heart soul perspective? And act because it's in the goodness of yourself and others.
Okay.
Now, people say, I can't get rid of guilt. And I said, I agree with you. You will never, ever get rid of guilt if you don't get rid of the shame that's fueling the guilt. Now, this helps a lot of people because they do, like, you know, $1,000 courses and $2,000 of this and, you know, 1 week of meditation and so forth and so on. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to get rid of your guilt. You got to get rid of the shame that's causing the guilt. Somewhere along the line, that's what happened. So right away, the guilt can just go away because it's just a fragment of shame. How does that sit
Interesting.
with you?
I'm pondering it, and it makes sense. I mean, you do have to have to deal with the shame.
And thank you for
but does
saying the
this
shame, not my shame. Never say
Yeah.
my shame because you
Oh,
can't
no,
own
no,
it.
no.
Yeah, but a lot of people
No,
do. I just said my
everybody.
guilt, and I'm a teacher. Okay, so like we are so brainwashed that you know, I'm working on it. It's only took 10 years, but I'm still working on it. So shame, guilt is one energy, and it's an energy. Now, what happens to your computer when it gets a virus, which is a negative energy?
Yeah, freezes up or you lose all your data.
Yeah.
And you press the keys and you press the K and it comes out as a W. Right? You know, it's called distorted, right? If I can use that word, it distorts it. It doesn't take it away. It just makes it goofy, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and me and Terry, we're computers. I think we're finding that out now. We are, you know, we use computers, but we are a computer substance ourselves. You know, we have input and we have the meridian lines within us. If you ever had a talk with a couple of the chiropractors or other types of energy people, you know, we have the meridian lines within us and they carry the energy flow. We have energy flowing in and out of us.
Right.
So we're a computer with the energy flowing. And what happens if a negative energy comes into it? Doing, it gets distorted.
Right.
Okay. So what happens? Well, our mind doesn't have clarity, which is a symptom of shame, guilt, energy, because I'm so confused. Then what I say to help people, I said, what is the shame you're feeling? That's how I help people. And I go, oh my God, I never put shame, guilt together with confusion.
There's a lot to that. I mean, I know I feel.
I mean, everybody, yeah. We are not alone.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I can say this is that I have worked with people for quite some time now, and we all get a little smarter after we remove the shame, guilt, because we have more stress on the energy lines. I mean, I know it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm smarter. Is it because the clarity is better? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that the shame and the guilt, you know, probably weigh us down. And using the computer
years.
reference, it takes up our bandwidth of our mind instead of being free to think and ponder on other things.
Oh, I'm going to quote you because that's beautiful. That's so true. You said it in such an eloquent way. Because people keep, I'm positive. Of course, they'll give you the first base, maybe the second base, but you will never hit a home run unless you get rid of shame guilt, because you always have that lower bandwidth.
How do we get rid of it?
Okay, let me. I'm working towards it.
I'm jumping up to
I know. It's like, okay,
I'm like, come on,
come on, Lois, tell me the secrets here. But I'm giving hope. We can get rid of this thing. Okay. Now, the emotional body, it hits that because we have physical, we have mental, we have emotional, we have spiritual bodies, right? And it goes clunk to all of them. Okay, so we did the mental. The emotional body, when it goes into the emotions, the positive emotions, compassion, turns to depression. Intuition turns to anxiety. See, all our emotions have a positive and negative orientation. Our passion turns to anger, and so forth and so on.
I'm taking notes.
Interesting. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh, please do. And I hope other people are taking, not when they're driving, but they can always listen again. But that's very interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
So you don't, I mean, I remember a phone call I got from somebody said, I was recommended to see you, Lois, because I have depression. I said, okay, we can fix that. He said, thank you. If someone or a therapist comes to me with one more piece of paper and tells me how to manage my depression, I'm going to kick them. I want to get rid of it. I don't want to manage it. I want to get rid of it. And I said, we can do that.
Okay.
I'm not managing emotions. I'm getting rid of the negative emotions, but you can't get rid of them until you get rid of the shame guilt that's causing the disruption. Isn't that interesting?
Is the shame and the guilt tied to the same incident, or can it be shame for one thing? Okay.
No. Shame guilt is one. How can you say it? You got the words. It's just it's composite. It's a shame guilt composite, and the only reason that it is that way is because our culture has separated it. Okay, we wouldn't have to do that if they didn't separate it.
Right.
But since they separated it, we got to put it together.
Right.
Okay.
Just like the gallbladder with cholecystitis and hepatitis and the meningitis, and it's all the same bacteria. And it's like, huh?
Yeah.
And the psychology has taken everything apart. Like, we're going to do therapy for the depression. We're going to do therapy for anxiety. We're going, and you know, it boggles your mind because you feel like, oh my God, it'll take me 10 lifetimes to heal. Going that way. And it's not going to heal it anyway because they don't address shame. Yeah, there's like, I think there's 450 diagnoses in the psychiatry journal that they bill for, like diseases. But they never mention shaming or guilt. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah, because I know sometimes even things that you did as a youngster, the guilt that you carry around, or something that happens to you, the shame that you carry around, can have an impact on the rest of your life.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. And I think that's karma. I say shame guilt's karma that you carry. Oh. How about that? So they want to get rid of karma, just get it. So I said, why doesn't somebody just make shame guilt a study in itself? Because it's a composite of everything in our lives: religion, culture, government, everything. So that's what I do. I'm bringing it out, like, say, hello, this is the this is it. I mean, if you conquer the shame guilt, you're like a free man or woman.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did the mind, we did the emotions, now the physical. And you can understand how the distortion of the meridians in the physical body from the shame, guilt, negative energy offset the impulses to the liver or to the kidneys or to the lungs. So this goes into more of a holistic field of medicine. And just to say that the distorted energy feeds the organs, the lungs or the liver or the stomach, different signals of energy, and therefore they don't respond as well, and therefore they can create disease.
Okay.
Now that's a whole nother lecture in itself, but and that's really technical. So, but and then we on the spiritual level, while I was in Sedona, this psychic capital of the world, I helped some people who were channelers, and we released the shame guilt that they were carrying, and they got a clearer channel. Because again, like you're saying, it's the bandwidth. It affects our whole being. So yes, we want to get rid of shame guilt, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
So do you have do you need me to elaborate anything on that? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of, but you see how it's different? How do you feel differently? It's like, wow, this is doable. It's not a mystery anymore.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting because I think about what you said, the passion turns to anger, and that happens a lot. People, I mean, I'll have to throw me under the bus and say, we had a piece of equipment that failed, and that's my passion, and this is my passion doing these podcasts, but then my emotions quickly turn from passion to anger because I need to get this piece of equipment fixed so we could get back on the road again.
Exactly. But, once you understand it, it doesn't take you down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, is help people to say, okay, this happened, but I don't want to go down to the rabbit hole so bad that, I can't even get out of bed. And that happens to a lot of people, and it happened to me. So like,
Yes.
I don't think there's any human not excused from that situation. Okay, so in the time that we have, I'm going to give some help with this. Okay, so shame, guilt, energy does not belong to you, doesn't belong to the human race. It's an outside energy force that was put on this earth, energy, humanity, or whatever you want to say. And that's a topic for another day. All we can say, it does exist, it's here, but it's not of us, meaning that we don't need it. Shame, guilt we don't need it. Shame, guilt energy needs us. It's kind of like a parasitic energy.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story, but it needs us. We don't need it.
Okay.
So when you start feeling that, say, I don't need you, you just kind of put it on the side. You're not going to get rid of it just by doing that. But this is like the first step. We got to do first step. It doesn't belong to you. Just clear your mind. It doesn't belong to you. Then you take a piece of paper and pencil, if you're not driving, and like this, what happened with you. Hi, anger, what do you have to tell me? You talk to your emotions. I decided to stop talking to therapist people, because then I said, I'm not getting anywhere. I decided to talk to myself. And myself started answering. This is very interesting.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. And I'm not saying therapy is bad. It's just that you can only go so far. I'm talking about self-healing. This is what you can do for yourself forever. And I have a DVD on my YouTube channel and my website, Out of Discord into Harmony. And it tells you how to talk to your emotions.
Okay.
Out of discord into harmony.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and even if you say, oh, I'm just feeling, I feel the shame's, oh, I'm sorry. What do I feel just miserable. Hi, miserable. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. What do you have to say? Now, this is in contrast to saying, meditate and clear your mind and get rid of it. Well, you know about getting rid of it, it just comes back. So
Right.
that doesn't work. So I'm saying talk to whatever you're feeling and they will help you. And I help people with that. They email me what their emotion said and I come back and I say, this is the next question to ask. So this is how you talk with your emotions. And in the talking, you get to have a personal relationship with them. And that's where the shame guilt is. It's inside your emotions. And then all of a sudden, your relationship with them helps the shame guilt to just disappear, or you can actually see it and you just take it and give it away because you see it as an energy. You just like, you know, when someone says something to you, you go, oh, I don't want that. You're actually naturally taking the shame guilt away. But now I want you to do it consciously.
Guilt to somebody else?
Pardon?
Can we give the shame guilt to somebody else? Like,
when you give it back, it automatically goes to the person that gave it to you.
okay.
Isn't that interesting? It has to go back to where it started.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting? So you don't have to do anything. You just go. Sometimes on my phone, I'm talking to somebody that, you know, it's not really good. And I'm just like, you know, give it back as they're talking. Did you ever hear the words, I'm not taking that from people?
Yeah.
You know, when I'm not taking that, or that doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that. Well, you're actually saying I'm not want the shame guilt that you're giving me. Everybody unconsciously wants to get rid of the shame guilt they're carrying, but they don't know they have it and they don't know how to get rid of it.
No.
So there's two things you have to do. One, you have to get rid of the shame guilt you're carrying. You know, I mean, we're talking during your lifetime. So, I mean, it's like, and it doesn't seem to be that overwhelming because you may like, can I take your incidents of being angry at the wiring stuff?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. So that, put a dot there. And then that dot goes back to 5 years ago when, you know, something happened to the car and had a flat tire and you were late for something. And then that goes back to when you're a teenager and you didn't get the date you wanted to. And then that goes back to 4-year-old when you didn't get your lollipop. So if you can go back to the 4-year-old and clear that shame guilt, the whole line clears.
Interesting.
So you don't have to do everything in your life because you can. If you can go back and find that original source, it's called the shame guilt scar.
Okay.
And once you get rid of that, you just like, phew, the whole line clears. You know, 10 years old, 12 years old, 20, 30, 50, 60. Now, you have other shame guilt scars, but that particular one's cleared. And the more you clear, the clearer you get, and it becomes easier and easier. So it's really not impossible.
So do these events?
Jerry's laughing.
No, I'm not laughing. I'm trying to think of a story.
No, that's good. That's good.
Did these events build like that thing that happened at 4 and then 10, 20, and all of a sudden it's just like this, it's welled up inside of you?
Yeah, that's what they call dementia or old age.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, midlife crisis. You're like, You know, it's like, how much can I carry? But they think, oh, it's just old age. No, it's shame guilt buildup.
Ah,
Interesting. So how do we trace that back, or what
yeah.
is the journey that we would take in order to, try to clear this
Well,
up?
you start talking to, hi, miserable. How are you? And your emotions bring you back. It's very interesting. That's how I do sessions with people. And
Yeah.
I also have a Facebook group called the Shame Guilt Stoppers.
Okay.
And I'm just building that, so it's new.
Yeah.
And you're learning how to do that. It's a self-healing thing, and the more people involved, the more aspects of people that can help each other.
Right.
And that's what we do, but it's not that difficult.
Right. Okay.
So it's not
No,
hypnosis.
not hypnosis.
It's putting verbiage to it and
It's not meditation.
okay.
Now, I agree with that. Sometimes I just sit in the porch and look at the trees, just kind of like, relax kind of thing. But I'm not talking about meditation. Meditation, severe meditation, is when you just go blank out. And that's when you get rid of your emotions, and that's causes more shame guilt. Because you're getting rid of the people that are trying to help you. Your emotions are trying to help you.
Okay.
Interesting. So recognize it and then talk it through, and that will help bring you back to the source of what the shame guilt is.
Scar, yeah, where it happened originally. And we all have that. I mean, this is common. It's common. Now, you ready for one other thing?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. Now we're talking about, lay it on. Okay, you guys are smart. Okay. The inner critic. We've all heard about that one. And everybody says, oh, how can we get rid of it? Just shut it up. Well, you know what happens when you try to shut somebody up? They get stronger.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me.
So, hi. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. Okay. The inner critic is vital, because the inner critic is our shame guilt producer. He or she is the one that's making you feel the shame and guilt, or shame guilt. Okay. So what happens when you have a product that is not working? Do you go to the worker or you go to the CEO to get full?
Try to go to the worker first.
Yeah, but where do you go to get resolution? You go to the CEO, right? The guy that's commanding the whole force.
Right.
Okay, so we go to the inner critic. Hi. We need to do something differently here. And the inner critic is like, don't mess things up. I already have everything under control. I have you in a square and you can't get out of it because you'll get injured, and I'm here to protect you. And you go, yeah, but I'm like 77 now. I know how to protect myself. I'm not 7 years old. So that's how we talk to the inner critic.
Interesting.
Now, the inner critic is not a bad person. It's just that he learned how to live through our culture. What has our culture taught us? Be shameful, be guiltful. If you don't do this, God's going to punish you. If you know how that goes, and religion and education and culture, and it's all like shame, shame, shame on you.
Yeah.
So what does your inner critic know? He or she, because you can have either one. A female critic's harder than a male critic. And hopefully you only have one. I had one client that had 3, but we eventually had resolution. Yeah. He survived.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Can you imagine?
No.
but anyway, it all works. So
So the inner
you,
critic is our
the inner critic is
shame-
your best friend.
Okay. Okay.
So it's just a matter of not you, but the inner critic decides not to use shame guilt anymore because he sees that you are smart enough not to accept shame guilt behaviors from other people.
Okay. All right.
Interesting, isn't it? Now, in my film, I have a dialogue with the inner critic at the end and how we get him to resolution.
Ah. And where
So
is your film?
it's coming out maybe in about 6 weeks. It's called
Okay.
I'm Good. I'm Good.
And where is it going to be available?
It's going to be available free on the internet. So
Okay.
I'm going to give it out to all my dear friends who gave me the privilege of being on their podcast.
Yay. That's awesome.
And then you can share it with other people. Now, the reason I say this about meditation is because, or meditate or hypnosis. Hypnosis is good for some situations, but not for behavior modification. Because if you do hypnosis, what you do is you bypass the inner critic. And if you don't have the permission of the inner critic, things can get very weary. And the inner critic gets angry because you're overstepping his bounds, which, I'm treating our inner self as a family. It's real, it's there. So we acknowledge, hi, inner critic, thank you so much. We need to talk. Be the ambassador to yourself. I have the emotions want to be more free. I don't want to receive shame guilt anymore. How can we make this work? So that's what I help people do, is negotiate and get rid of the shame guilt. You get smarter to learn what shame guilt behaviors are, because we don't know, because that's all we know is normal behavior, and normal behavior is shame guilt. Yeah. And I have an ebook on my website, and it's called 500 Questions and One Answer. So there's 500 ways you can learn shame guilt behaviors.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah.
There's more, but I thought 500 would give you a good example.
That's a good start.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, Lois, we appreciate that. That's it's an interesting concept to think about, and it's been enjoyable talking to you. And if you don't mind, before we wrap up, how can people reach out to you to learn more? And you said you had a YouTube site, but where can they find you at?
At Lois Hollis, like you have in my name, Lois, LOISHOLLIS.com. Okay. And I have a lot on my website, and I have a nice section of podcasts that people can listen to, because I say the same thing, but it's interesting how it's said in different ways, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And please sign up for the newsletter. Now, the newsletter is the ebook.
Oh, okay.
And I give 20 segments every week. For 20 weeks, you get 25 questions and answers, because it's too much to get 500. Like, I think you throw the book away. So that's free. And it teaches you what normal behavior, what shame guilt behaviors are, because that's the first thing. There's identify. We have to learn what shame guilt behaviors are, not to use them. It's called Know Thy Enemy. Then I also have, you can call me. I give a 15-minute talk. People, again, shame guilt is different to everybody. So this is a new concept. So people I'm interested, but I want to have a session with you, but I don't know you. And so we can talk for a few minutes and get to know each other.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, we encourage everybody to, reach out to check this out since it is such a new concept. And, it's new concept to try to treat it. I don't think it's any, I think people have known that we carry this stuff around with us, but learning how to
to get
resolve
rid of
it
it.
and how to rid ourselves.
Get
Yeah.
rid of it.
So
Yeah.
there's three
That's what
things.
we
You
need to.
identify it, you release it, and you avoid it.
Okay.
And that's it. And it works.
Okay.
And it becomes easier and easier the more you work it, and you become healthier and happier.
That's what
All
we're
right.
all about.
That's what we want. That's what we
That's
want to
what
do.
we
We
want.
all want to be healthy and happy.
And yeah, Roy, you mentioned caregivers. They carry a bundle of the guilt, and
Yes.
it really is very burdensome.
Yeah.
And I would say to them that it's not the guilt of the present that's bothering them. It's the guilt of like the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old or 14-year-old. So if they could work with that guilt, it would alleviate the present guilt.
Yeah.
Because that's all we see is the present. But if we went back and found out something happened when they were 12 and resolved that, then the present guilt would be minimized.
Okay.
Ah.
Cut it off at the root.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you're always going to have some, but you don't want it to be the freezing you and destroying your health. And
Right.
and that is happening. That's no
What
question
happened.
about that.
For sure.
Yes. So we need to go back and get rid of the root, and then the flower or the weed will die.
Right. Right. All right. That's awesome. Well, Lois, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. It's definitely something that we're going to look into, and we challenge our audience to reach out to Lois's website, get some information, and see how she can help you. So that's going to do it for another episode of Educational. Of course, you can find us at ageeducational.com. We're on all the social media platforms. Video of this interview will also go up when it is posted. We also are on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to regularly, please reach out. We'd be glad to add. So until next time, I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
Thanks again,
Thank
Lois.
you, Lois.
Thank you.